Richard Trenton Chase was born on May 23, 1950, in Santa Clara, California. On the surface, his early life seemed ordinary. His family resided in a comfortable suburban neighborhood. However, beneath the veneer of normalcy, a darkness was already taking root within young Richard. From a young age, he exhibited disturbing behaviors. These behaviors hinted at the horrors that would later define his life and haunt the city of Sacramento. Richard's descent into madness was gradual but relentless. As he grew older, his behavior became increasingly erratic. This descent into madness would culminate in a series of heinous crimes that would forever etch his name in the annals of criminal history. Richard Chase's family life was far from idyllic. His parents' relationship was tumultuous, marked by frequent arguments and a palpable lack of emotional connection. Richard's home environment, instead of offering solace and stability, became a breeding ground for his burgeoning mental illness. Medical professionals diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia during his teenage years. His condition, left untreated, manifested in increasingly bizarre and disturbing behaviors. Richard began to experience delusions and hallucinations. He believed that his body was morphing, his blood turning to powder. The lines between reality and delusion blurred, pushing him further into the abyss of his own mind. As Richard Chase's mental state deteriorated, so too did his grip on reality. He began to engage in self-harm, cutting himself and experimenting with drugs. His behavior became increasingly erratic and alarming to those around him. Richard's delusions took on a sinister turn. He became convinced that he needed to consume blood to survive. This belief, a horrifying echo of vampire lore, would drive him to commit unspeakable acts of violence. His early victims were animals. He would capture and kill rabbits and birds, drinking their blood in a macabre ritual. These acts of animal cruelty served as a chilling prelude to the horrors that he would soon inflict on human victims. Richard Chase was transforming into a monster, driven by the twisted dictates of his schizophrenic mind. Richard Chase's reign of terror began in 1977. He graduated from animal cruelty to murder, claiming his first victim on December 29th. His crimes were shocking in their brutality and seemingly random nature. Chase would break into the homes of his victims. He would shoot them, often multiple times. Then, he would engage in acts of necrophilia and cannibalism. Driven by his delusional belief that he needed to consume blood to survive, Chase earned the moniker the Vampire of Sacramento. He terrorized the city for weeks, leaving a trail of blood and heartbreak in his wake. His crimes were not simply acts of violence, they were grotesque rituals fueled by a mind consumed by madness. The hunt for Richard Chase was intense and frantic. Law enforcement was under immense pressure to catch the killer who was terrorizing their city. Chase's crimes were so random and unpredictable, he was like a phantom, appearing and disappearing at will. This made it incredibly difficult for investigators to establish a pattern and anticipate his next move. However, as with many serial killers, Chase's undoing came from his own carelessness. He left behind a trail of evidence, including fingerprints and his own identification at several crime scenes. This carelessness, a hallmark of his disorganized mental state, would ultimately lead to his capture. Richard Chase's trial was a media spectacle. The details of his crimes were so horrific, so depraved, that they shocked even the most seasoned reporters. The central question of the trial was not whether Chase had committed the crimes, but whether he was legally insane at the time he committed them. The prosecution argued that Chase was aware of his actions and knew that they were wrong, pointing to his attempts to evade capture. The defense countered that Chase's severe schizophrenia rendered him incapable of understanding the nature and consequences of his actions. The jury ultimately found Chase guilty of 6 counts of first-degree murder. They rejected his insanity plea, sentencing him to death. Despite being sentenced to death, Richard Chase never faced the gas chamber. On December 26, 1980, he was found dead in his cell at San Quentin State Prison. He had committed suicide by overdosing on antidepressants that he had been hoarding. Chase's death brought an end to his reign of terror, but did little to ease the pain and fear he had inflicted on so many. His case had a profound impact on the Sacramento community and beyond. It raised uncomfortable questions about the adequacy of mental health care. It also brought to light the challenges of balancing the rights of the mentally ill with the need to protect society from dangerous individuals. Chase's legacy, forever intertwined with the horror of his crimes, serves as a chilling reminder of the devastating consequences of untreated mental illness. Section 8. Beyond the Bars, the case for improved mental health care in the justice system. The Richard Chase case exposed the urgent need for improved mental health care within the criminal justice system. His story is a stark reminder of the consequences of neglecting mental health. Chase's severe mental illness was well documented long before his killing spree. His medical records clearly indicated a history of severe mental health issues. He had multiple encounters with law enforcement and mental health professionals. Despite these interactions, the system failed to provide the necessary intervention. However, due to a combination of factors, including a lack of resources and an inadequate understanding of mental illness, he never received the comprehensive treatment he desperately needed. The overcrowded mental health wards and overworked professionals couldn't keep up with the demand. Chase's case highlighted the need for improved mental health care within the criminal justice system and sparked debate about the legal definition of insanity. This debate continues to influence policy and legal standards today. Chase's case is not an isolated incident. Many others with severe mental illness have similar stories. It is emblematic of a systemic failure to address the needs of individuals with severe mental illness who come into contact with the law. Public outcry and protests have called for urgent reforms. The criminal justice system often becomes the default option for people who are experiencing a mental health crisis. This is a role it was never designed to fulfill. This is a tragedy for both the individuals involved and society as a whole. Addressing this issue requires a comprehensive approach, including better funding, training, and policies to support mental health care within the justice system. Section 9. A haunting reminder: the importance of early intervention. The tragic case of Richard Chase underscores the critical importance of early intervention for individuals struggling with mental illness. Early signs of Chase's deteriorating mental state were evident long before he committed his horrific crimes. However, his condition was never adequately addressed, allowing him to slip through the cracks of a flawed system. Early intervention and support for those struggling with mental illness are crucial to prevent tragedies like the Richard Chase case. Early intervention, which includes comprehensive mental health assessments, access to medication and therapy, and community support, can make a world of difference. By addressing mental health issues in their early stages, we can potentially prevent them from escalating into crises that result in violence, tragedy, and profound loss. Section 10. Navigating the gray areas, mental illness, criminal responsibility, and public safety. Richard Chase's case ignited a firestorm of debate about the complex and often contradictory relationship between mental illness, criminal responsibility, and public safety. His actions and subsequent trial brought to light the intricate and often misunderstood dynamics at play when mental health issues intersect with the legal system. Chase's insanity plea, though ultimately unsuccessful, forced the court to grapple with a fundamental question: to what extent can an individual suffering from severe mental illness be held accountable for their actions? This question is not just legal but deeply philosophical, challenging our understanding of free will and moral responsibility. The Richard Chase case sparked a national conversation about the intersection of mental illness, criminal justice, and public safety. It highlighted the urgent need for a more informed and compassionate approach to dealing with mentally ill offenders. There are no easy answers to this question. The complexities involved require a delicate balance between empathy and justice. It is a moral and ethical dilemma that continues to challenge our legal system and society at large. The debate touches on fundamental issues of human rights, societal protection, and the nature of justice itself. Balancing the rights of individuals with mental illness with the need to protect public safety requires a nuanced approach. This balance is crucial for ensuring that justice is served while also providing the necessary support and treatment for those who are mentally ill. This approach must include a commitment to both compassionate treatment and effective legal mechanisms to address the unique challenges posed by crimes committed by individuals deemed mentally incompetent. Only through such a comprehensive strategy can we hope to navigate these gray areas effectively and humanely. Section 11. A call to action, bridging the gap between justice and compassion. The disturbing case of Richard Chase serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of untreated mental illness. His story is not just a tale of crime, but a tragic example of what can happen when society fails to provide adequate mental health care. It is a call to action for all of us to do better, to bridge the gap between justice and compassion, and to create a society where mental health is treated with the same urgency and importance as physical health. We must recognize that mental health issues are not a sign of weakness, but a medical condition that requires attention and care. Creating a more just and compassionate society requires a collective effort to address the needs of those struggling with mental illness and to ensure that they receive the help they deserve. This means not only providing immediate support but also long-term solutions that can help individuals lead fulfilling lives. We must advocate for increased funding for mental health services, support research into the causes and treatments of mental illness, and work to eliminate the stigma that prevents so many from seeking help. Education and awareness are key components in changing public perception and encouraging those in need to seek assistance. Only then can we hope to prevent tragedies like the Richard Chase case from happening again. By coming together as a community, we can make a difference and ensure that no one falls through the cracks of our mental health system.